Welcome everyone to today's Explainer. We are unpacking a genuinely fascinating paper by Ryan McLean called The Stewardship of Welcome. It's this deep, incredibly thought-provoking look at how universal institutions, specifically the Catholic Church, though honestly these principles apply to pretty much any community, can completely rethink and modernize their approach to true hospitality. I want to hook you right away with this core paradox because it's something so many of us have noticed. If an institution loudly proclaims, "Hey, we are for absolutely everyone," why is it so incredibly hard for an outsider to actually figure out what's going on? We see these massive organizations claiming a universal mission, but then, practically speaking, they operate like highly exclusive clubs where you kind of need to know the secret handshake just to get through the front door. McLean uses this brilliant analogy that hits the nail on the head. Picture a restaurant, right? They hang this giant glowing sign in the window that says, "Everyone is welcome." But you walk in, and the menu is written entirely in some secret wizard language. Nobody tells you where to sit, and the waiter gets personally offended when you ask what the soup of the day is. Technically, sure, the doors are open, but practically, the place is a fortress. Just having an open door doesn't actually mean you're accessible. All right, let's dive right in and see how we can actually fix this disconnect. We're going to map out McLean's proposed solution across 6 quick steps. 1. The burden of welcome. 2. Stewards, not owners. 3. Welcome is not agreement. 4. Function before vocabulary. 5. A plain English rule. And 6. Participation before mastery.
Step 1. The burden of welcome.
True universality isn't just unlocking your door and waiting around. It places a massive burden on the host to cross those cultural and linguistic distances. You can't make the guest do all the heavy lifting. Pope Francis puts it this way. He says he prefers a church that is bruised, hurting, and dirty because it's been out on the streets. The institution has to leave its comfortable little bubble to meet people exactly where they are. Think about it. This is exactly what Jesus did. He didn't shout complicated instructions from the sky. He stepped into the messy human world and used everyday things like seeds, bread, and sheep to explain these huge truths. The person sending the message bears the absolute first burden of making it understandable.
Moving along to step 2. Stewards, not owners.
This really gets to the heart of who holds the power in these massive religious structures. Think about the difference here. A proprietor owns the house, so they make up the rules however they want. But a steward? A steward is just holding the keys and caring for the guests on behalf of the actual owner. McLean points out that while the church has legitimate authority, it doesn't own the grace, and it certainly doesn't own the people. Its job is to faithfully feed and protect the household until the master gets back. Look, having more keys just means you have way more responsibility to serve. It is not a license to act like you own the place.
All right, step 3. Welcome is not agreement.
A lot of communities get really anxious about this. They worry that if they warmly welcome absolutely everyone, it somehow means they're abandoning their core truths or endorsing bad behavior. But we have to make a crucial distinction. Hospitality simply says you may enter the relation. Endorsement says everything you currently believe or do is correct. Those are totally different things. It's like a hospital. A hospital admits sick people so they can heal. They don't demand you be in perfect health before you're allowed in the building. Welcome is just that safe starting point where learning and truth and healing actually become possible.
True evangelization is all about bridging those distances. It means crossing the road to help, just like the Good Samaritan. It absolutely does not mean acting like a strict customs office, interrogating strangers, and digging around for some technical reason to keep them out.
Which brings us to step 4. Function before vocabulary.
So how do we actually communicate these deep, complex ideas without demanding that an outsider basically swallow a dictionary of insider jargon first? Well, we can translate deep traditions into functional actions. Look at these terms. Instead of just saying Salah and expecting someone to know Arabic, what if you explain the plain English function? Stop and pray with your body. Instead of zakat, you say share surplus wealth. Shabbat functionally means protect one day from work. And wu wei means act without coercive force. It is incredibly helpful to show how different traditions share these practical, deeply human functions. We can explain the what and the why way before we expect anyone to master the vocabulary.
We actually see this shared practical grammar across the board. Worship, fixed remembrance, repentance, fasting, charity, sacred time, restraint. We all need these reminders in our lives. Now, McLean is careful to note that recognizing these functional similarities doesn't erase the very real, deep theological differences between faiths, but it absolutely highlights that these traditions are addressing universal human needs.
Okay, step 5. A plain English rule.
McLean proposes taking these shared functions and organizing them into a practical rhythm that actually helps a busy modern person survive the day. Here's what it looks like in simple, jargon-free steps. Step 1, morning worship. Step 2, a daytime interruption, stopping on purpose to pray or center yourself. Step 3, sacred reading and offering up your work. And step 4, an evening transition to close out the day in peace. By intentionally interrupting our day like this, we stop ordinary life from just dissolving into this endless, exhausting blur of productivity. It trains us to remember what actually matters.
And that daily habit builds into this beautiful weekly rhythm. Friday holds the communal function of gathering and transitioning out of the work week. Saturday is all about fiercely protected rest. Sunday is for resurrection, worship, and mission. Breaking it down this way shows how each day anchors our memory, restores our relationships, and really protects our human dignity from a world that just wants us to constantly produce.
Finally, step 6, participation before mastery. I love this point so much. Nobody plants a seed and then yells at it for not being an oak tree by lunchtime. It's so true, right? Think about joining the Scouts. You don't have to be an Eagle Scout to show up to your very first meeting. Participation has to begin way before mastery. An advanced path exists to guide the people who are ready for it. It is not there to humiliate beginners who are just starting out. You are absolutely allowed to just show up and grow. This really drives McLean's core argument home. A truly universal message has to adapt its delivery. It has to bend and flex to ensure that every single person has a genuine, totally understandable opportunity to receive it.
So here is a question I want you to really chew on today. Is your community acting as a gracious host, someone who actually crosses the distance to welcome a stranger? Or are they acting like a customs office, demanding the secret password before they let anyone inside? Think deeply about what true hospitality looks like in your own life. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will see you next time.